June 1980. A lifeless body was discovered atop a cold pile of coal over 20 miles from home. Strange burn marks covered the man's neck and shoulders, wounds that defied all logical explanation. Who or what was responsible for this chilling death? Join us as we uncover the unsolved case of the strange death of Zigmund Adamski. But first, make sure to subscribe to our channel, because in a world full of danger, a little luck and safety might just find those who stay curious. Part 1. The Life of Zigmund Adamski. Before the darkness fell. Before his name became a riddle whispered in the shadows of British folklore, Zigmund Adamski was just an ordinary man living an ordinary life. A coal miner by trade, he resided in the quiet village of Tingley, nestled in the rolling hills of West Yorkshire, England, a place where neighbors nodded good morning, and the loudest sound at dusk was the wind brushing against the hedgerows. But Zigmund's story didn't begin in England. He was born and raised in Poland, where he had spent the majority of his earlier years. A proud, hard-working man with deep roots in his homeland, he had weathered life's storms with quiet resilience. Yet in 1960, at the age of 37, he made a life-altering decision, one that would carry him far from the familiar soil of Poland to the misty countryside of Britain. Alongside his beloved wife, Lady, Zigmund packed up decades of memories and crossed borders in search of a brighter future. Like many post-war immigrants, they carried both hope and uncertainty in equal measure. But to their surprise, England welcomed them with open arms. The couple quickly settled into their new life. They forged friendships, adapted to the customs of a new land, and became an inseparable part of the small-town rhythm. To anyone who knew them, Zigmund and Leti were more than just newcomers. They were kind, gentle souls, a couple full of quiet warmth. No enemies, no secrets, no signs of danger lurking beneath the surface. They lived simply, loved deeply, and gave no reason for the strange, haunting fate that would soon cast a long and terrifying shadow over their lives. Part 2. The Mysterious Disappearance. On the afternoon of the 6th of June, 1980, 56-year-old Zigmund Adamski left his home for a short walk to the local store. Before setting off, he chatted briefly and warmly with a neighbor. The weather was clear, the day calm, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But Zigmund never returned. Neither his wife Leti nor anyone who knew him saw him alive again. For nearly a week, he was gone without a trace, vanished as if swallowed by the earth itself. No one knew where he was or what had happened during those missing days. This sudden disappearance marked the beginning of a mystery far stranger than anyone could imagine. Part 3. The Body is Found. 5 days later, on the 11th of June, the mystery took a chilling turn. Zigmund Adamski's lifeless body was discovered in a coal yard in Todmorden, over 20 miles from his home. Trevor Parker, the son of the coal yard's owner, was opening the gate at 3:45 p.m. to prepare for the evening shift when he spotted the body lying on top of a massive 12-ton pile of coal. Shocked, he immediately called the police. Officer Godfrey arrived at the scene at 10:04 p.m. When questioned, Parker explained that the last time he was at the coal yard was at 11 a.m. that morning, and the body was definitely not there then. He had locked the gate when he left, and as far as he knew, no one had entered the yard since. That meant the body had appeared sometime within those 5 hours, a window full of unanswered questions and growing unease. How did Zigmund get there? Who put him on that heap of coal? And why was his death so strangely marked by the burns on his neck and shoulders? The questions only deepened as the investigation began. Part 4. The Unusual Details. Right after arriving at the scene, Officer Godfrey called for an ambulance. The medical team quickly confirmed that Zigmund Adamski had died from a sudden cardiac arrest. However, as they took a closer look, several strange and unsettling details emerged, casting doubt on the simple explanation of natural death. The most alarming were the second-degree burns on the back of his neck and shoulders. These burns weren't random, they were carefully covered with a peculiar gel, almost as if someone had attempted to treat the wounds while Zigmund was still alive. But who could have done this, and why? The way Zigmund's body was found deepened the mystery. His clothing was disheveled in a bizarre manner, as if dressed by someone unfamiliar with how to put on clothes properly. His coat was buttoned incorrectly, his pants and belt were loosely fastened, and his shoes were misaligned. It was as if he'd been hastily clothed after death, a grim and puzzling detail that no one could easily explain. Adding to the confusion, Zigmund's wife reported that the shirt he wore on the day of his disappearance was missing, along with his wallet and watch. Yet all other clothes on his body remained in remarkably good condition. This fact made it impossible to believe that he had been wandering the streets for nearly a week. Another bizarre fact was how incredibly clean his body was. Despite being missing for almost 7 days, Zigmund looked as if he had just stepped out of a bath. His beard had grown only about a day's length, not nearly enough for a week-long disappearance. Even stranger, there was no coal dust found on his skin or clothes, ruling out the possibility that he had climbed onto the massive coal pile himself before dying. Yet his body was discovered lying face-up on top of that very coal mound. The coal pile itself showed no signs of disturbance. No footprints, no marks of someone climbing up or down. It was as if his body had simply appeared there, mysteriously placed from above. Officer Godfrey described Zigmund's face as frozen in an expression of pure terror, an image confirmed later by the coroner. The twisted look on his face told a story of extreme fear or pain at the moment of death, making the circumstances even more chilling. Autopsy results suggested that Zigmund died between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on the day his body was found. Interestingly, he had eaten during the missing days, but not on the actual day of his death, adding more questions about what happened during his disappearance. The strange gel on his burns was sent for testing at the Home Office laboratory, but scientists were unable to identify its composition. No medical records showed Zigmund had sought treatment for these burns at any hospital or clinic in the area. Every detail pointed towards something far more sinister than a natural death, and the mystery of Zigmund Adamski's last hours only grew deeper. Part 5. Alan Godfrey's Strange Experience. There was no clear reason for Zigmund Adamski's sudden disappearance. He was a kind man, with few or no enemies, mentally stable, and reportedly looking forward to attending a family wedding the very next day after he vanished. Yet his case was surrounded by numerous mysteries, including bizarre details such as the strange burns on his body, details that no one could easily explain or ignore. As the story broke in tabloids weeks later, wild rumors began swirling, suggesting strong possibilities of alien abduction. Though it sounded far-fetched to some, these claims couldn't be dismissed outright. The Todmorden area and its surroundings had long been a hotbed of UFO sightings and unexplained phenomena, making the alien theory all the more plausible. Adding another layer to the mystery was the involvement of Officer Alan Godfrey, a man who himself later claimed to have had an alien abduction experience. It would be impossible to tell Zigmund Adamski's story without mentioning Godfrey's experience, as the two incidents became strangely intertwined. Over time, two pieces of a puzzle nobody could solve. In November 1980, just 6 months after Adamski's body was found, Godfrey was on early morning patrol when he was dispatched to investigate reports of a herd of cows mysteriously appearing and disappearing around a local neighborhood. Driving along Burnley Road towards the latest reported sighting, Godfrey noticed what at first appeared to be an overturned double-decker bus about 200 meters away. Believing it was the miners' transport bus involved in a serious accident, he slowed to examine the scene more carefully. But as he got closer, the object didn't behave like any vehicle. He knew it was hovering about 5 feet off the ground. Trying to call for backup, he realized both his personal radio and the car radio were dead. No signal, no communication. Unsure of what to do, he noted the time and began sketching the strange craft. Within about 30 seconds of completing his drawing, he looked up and the object was gone. Suddenly, Godfrey realized his patrol car was now much farther down the road, about a quarter of a mile away from where he had first spotted the object. Checking his watch, he was stunned to discover that although he felt only a minute had passed, almost half an hour was missing from his memory. To make matters even stranger, Godfrey found that the sole of his police boot was torn near the toe in a way that suggested he had been dragged along the ground. He immediately returned to the station, enlisting several colleagues to help search for the missing cows. The herd was eventually found in a flooded field, accessible only through a locked gate. Despite recent heavy rains that softened the ground, there were no footprints, as if the cows had simply been dropped there from nowhere. Following protocol, Godfrey filed a report on his encounter with the strange object that morning. It turned out that just 3 miles down the same road, Another driver had witnessed a bright white light and reported it to the Todmorden police. For 2 weeks, no further incidents occurred, but somehow Godfrey's report leaked to the press, igniting a media frenzy that caused him great embarrassment and strained the police department's reputation. Though an outstanding officer with 2 commendations for his previous work, Godfrey soon found himself ostracized by his peers and sidelined by his superiors. His promising career was effectively destroyed, and he resigned from the force a few years later. Under hypnosis regression therapy, Godfrey later recalled more detailed memories of his encounter, memories that were chilling and raised even more questions than answers. Part 6. Theories about Adamski's death. Alan Godfrey once described Zigmund Adamski's case as one of the strangest he had ever encountered. Despite his own unexplained experience with a UFO earlier that same year, Godfrey was unsure if extraterrestrials were truly involved in Adamski's death, though he didn't rule out the possibility entirely. About 25 years later, investigators from the British UFO Research Association (BUFORA) interviewed Adamski's family members and uncovered new information that challenged earlier assumptions. Contrary to popular belief, Adamski was not looking forward to attending the wedding of his goddaughter's daughter, as initially reported. Instead, family tensions were running high at the time. A female relative had recently moved into the Adamski household after obtaining a restraining order against her husband. This situation created significant strain and conflict within the family. From these revelations, 2 main theories about Adamski's mysterious 5-day disappearance emerged. Hypothesis 1. Human abduction. BUFORA concluded that Zigmund Adamski may have been abducted by the husband of a female relative and held captive in a warehouse. There, he was tortured with battery acid, causing the burns found on his body, and ultimately died from a heart attack. When Adamski passed away, the kidnapper panicked and dumped his body on the coal pile at Todmorden. Logically, this hypothesis seems plausible, but many questions remain unanswered. First, Adamski was an outsider, not deeply involved in the family dispute. So why was he targeted for abduction? Who stood to gain from holding him captive and torturing him? Next, Adamski was found partially undressed with a strange gel on his skin, raising more questions. If the kidnapper wanted to harm him, why were there signs of treatment? What was the gel, and why was it applied? Additionally, why was Adamski's body left in a public exposed place on a coal pile during the daytime where it could easily be discovered? If the intent was to hide the body, this was a poor choice. Who helped the perpetrator access the locked coal yard without leaving any trace? The absence of footprints or signs of disturbance on the coal pile is another puzzling detail. Finally, the most troubling aspect of this theory is that no one was ever arrested or charged. The police found no clear suspects or evidence. All these questions make the human abduction hypothesis plausible, but far from conclusive. Hypothesis 2. Alien abduction. Many believe that extraterrestrials were involved and abducted Zigmund Adamski on the 6th of June while he was on his way to a local store. From that point, he was kept in a sort of suspended state, which could explain the lack of beard growth in his appearance that suggested he had been eating well. When he was taken out of this suspended state, possibly for examination, he was so shocked by what was happening that he suffered a severe heart attack and died. However, the possible involvement of UFOs raises more puzzling questions. It was reported that Zigmund's wallet and watch were missing. What could extraterrestrials want with his valuable possessions? This alone makes many people think there is a more earthly explanation for his disappearance. Secondly, most alien abduction stories suggest that although the experience is often terrifying and sometimes uncomfortable, abductors are generally benign and do not intend to harm their subjects. So why did Adamski suffer burns that appeared malicious? Could these injuries have been accidental on their part, which would explain attempts to treat them as indicated by the strange gel? Something modern science still cannot identify. Finally, the question must be asked again. Why would the abductors leave Adamski's body on a coal pile during the daytime? Why leave behind such a mystery? Why not hide the body where no one could find it? Could it be that the abductors felt guilty, believed he should be returned home? Conclusion. This case remains shrouded in mystery with layers far deeper than what meets the eye. Though the family dispute theory may seem like the most reasonable explanation, it falls short of fully convincing anyone. Other possibilities, even those that sound extraordinary, cannot be entirely dismissed. There are countless reasons why Zigmund Adamski vanished on that fateful day. But whatever the truth may be, it will forever remain an unsolved enigma etched into history. May Zigmund finally find peace. If you love uncovering mysteries that challenge logic and defy explanation, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. Join us as we explore more baffling stories waiting to be solved. Thanks for watching.